Today on Locked On Red Wings, recapping the Red Wings offseason, and Red Savage's rights are set to expire should they give him a deal. We cover that and more with Jake Rivard of 313 Hockey.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We're your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. And today we are happy to be joined by a longtime friend of the pod and friend in general, Jake Rivard of 313 Hockey. How you doing, Jake?
Oh, I'm living. I'm definitely doing better than the Wings have been doing this offseason. How about you guys?
That's a low bar to cross.
Yeah.
We're doing well. I don't want to speak for Scotty, but considering the fact that the Tigers just came off a 1-0 win over the Sox, we're recording this on Wednesday, by the way, I assume his happiness levels are at least above average right now. They won the series.
They're fine.
I'm
He's
great.
Good.
Okay, he's good.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thank you for all. Let's all guess Scott's mental health. That's a great way to start the show. Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Scotty, we have Jake on. We're going to have him kind of break down the Red Wings offseason as it were so far. Obviously, there's still a month left before they even play any preseason or red and white games or prospect games in Dallas, any of that stuff. But for the most part, barring maybe one move, hopefully, they're pretty much wrapped up. So we'll have Jake cover what they've done so far, what his take on it is. We'll also talk a little bit about Red Savages. His rights are set to expire on Friday, to the day you are listening to this, at least if I scheduled the episode right, not like a couple weeks ago when we kept referencing how it's a Friday episode and I scheduled it for Thursday by accident. And then if we have time, we'll maybe cover Jake's top 5 Red Wings, or perhaps the Jake Chelios news that broke today, but we'll get to what we can. Jake, why don't you lead off and talk to us about 313 Hockey? Because obviously that was Red Wings podcast, much like our own a couple of years ago. A little bit of radio silence. You guys went on a little bit of a reprieve, but now you're back, but things have changed a little bit.
They most certainly have. Yeah, 313 Hockey as we know it, rest in peace. The podcast has ceased to exist. Unfortunately, my co-host and I agreed to kind of mutually part ways, and we agreed to take a break from the show. Since then, I have moved to 2 different cities, so I've gone from Pittsburgh to Chicago, and I decided after being surrounded by enough Hawks fans that I just couldn't take it anymore. I needed to be louder than all of them. So I decided to get a little back to it and go back to my basics. So 313 Hockey is a free-to-subscribe website where every week I post a different article on the Red Wings, whether it's culture, different thoughts I have, strange things that I notice. So this week's article was actually about the 5 different types of Red Wings fans. There are only 5, and all of you are one of them, unfortunately. So yeah, feel free to give that a look. It's 313hockey.com. I'm also on Twitter at 313hockey, and sometimes I'm on Instagram as well.
So let's get into your Red Wings takes, as it were. The Red Wings had a relatively quiet offseason, made one splash-ish move in acquiring John Gibson. But other than that, we're pretty quiet in free agency. A lot of that has to do with, the free agency pool being pretty muted to begin with. But what do you make of the Red Wings offseason so far, and how do you feel like that sets them up going forward into the next season?
If I had to describe it in one word, I mean, it's fine. It's kind of like a lateral movement. That meme of the guy where it's like he didn't do anything but take a step back? Like, that's really what it is. It's like, I like James Van Riemsdyk. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. Mason Appleton should be also perfectly fine. I think John Gibson's probably the headliner, a clear upgrade in net, but it remains to be seen whether or not his low numbers were a result of Anaheim or if it's a sign of his age. He is getting pretty old now. I will say my favorite signing, though, was probably Jacob Bernard-Docker. I think he's a low-risk defenseman. He's young. He's still got a little bit of potential. You throw him on the third pairing with Albert Johansson, and I think you're going to be in good shape there. Having said that, I think I was expecting a little more. I think most people were. I'd say like hockey fans across the NHL were, if we're being just totally honest. I kept hearing reports from insiders that, August is going to be a big month. Yeah, the beginning of August is when everything's going to change. And what have we seen so far? Nate Bastian got signed with the Dallas Stars. Like, is that really what we're looking forward to?
What? Wait, no, hold on. What are you talking about? We got big news on Wednesday that Gerard Gallant is now the head coach of the Shanghai Dragons. That's what they're talking about.
You caught that video, I assume.
Yeah.
Diabolical. Just
unbelievable.
Absolutely insane content. Yeah.
AI slop. It was I won't say I wasn't entertained, but it was crazy. But not entertained in the right way, I should say.
For those who haven't seen, the Shanghai Dragons of the KHL announced that they signed former NHL goaltender or NHL coach Gerard Gallant. They used a lot of AI. For some reason, there was like an uncanny valley of Jaromir Jagr on there. I think I caught Panarin. It was so weird. I don't know what to make of it.
They made him
all over the place. My favorite part is when they show like the coach drawing X's and O's on the whiteboard, and it's just nonsense. Like, it's not because it's AI, right? It's not even remotely a hockey play. It's just like scribbles and like the whole videos, and then magically a dragon appears. It's absolutely wild. Yeah,
lightning out of the eyes. I mean,
yep.
Sorry to knock you off track, but I couldn't help but put that dig in there. But you're talking about how August has been pretty slow. All the insiders said it was going to be a busy one, but it just hasn't been.
Like, I'm sure we'll see a little bit of movement with like a couple small moves, but for the most part, I feel like almost all the rosters are set, barring a couple trades.
Well, that's one of the bigger things you mentioned there. I think is a great point where, none of the moves they made in a vacuum are bad, like the Wings, right? None of the moves you look at and you're like, wow, that was really stupid or terrible, or that's a horrible use of assets. Nothing was overwhelmingly negative. It's just they didn't really add anything. And I think to your point, Brian and I certainly were expecting and kind of hoping them to add more. But as you look across the NHL, like you said, a lot of people just re-signed. And there's really that's not a Red Wings centric issue. That's, you open the scope to the whole NHL, like you said. That's something that just across the league, a lot of the big names that we were kind of expecting just ended up not reaching the open market. There's not much you can do about that.
Yeah, that's something that Sean Shapiro said too, is something really great to add on to that, is there are 30 teams in the NHL right now that are looking around wondering how they got better through free agency. And I think that's so true. Outside of New York, who got Gavrikov, and what was the other one? Ehlers, who went to Carolina. Like, a lot of teams are going, how did we get better this offseason?
Like, I think you can look at the Wings roster in one of two ways. At its most charitable, I think there's opportunity for a lot of these younger players. I mean, Carter Mazur's coming off of a season-ending IR. Maybe this is his chance to crack the roster. Axel Sandin-Pellikka looked absolutely out of this world in the SHL. Maybe there's a chance he makes a plunge into the NHL this year. But that's at its most charitable. At its most realistic, you're probably going to see both of those guys in the AHL, and we might be climbing aboard the Justin Hole Express one more time.
It seems pretty inevitable at this point. Jake, I know that you have a couple of ideas in mind on how the Red Wings can fill the holes that they have remaining. Scotty and I actually do not know the players you're going to name. We kept that blind to the listener, so Scotty and I will be reacting in real time, as they say.
The live reaction video type of thing we're going for, yeah.
I wish I could do this like a dating show. Like, maybe I will. You know what?
Who's that NHL player?
Yeah.
Contestant number one. Yeah.
We'll get to that on the other side of our first break here, so stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Scotty, Jake, I actually have personal experience using Gametime. I went to the Stadium Series through Gametime, and most recently, I bought tickets to what, by the time people are listening to this, Now, the Linkin Park concert, that was yesterday. I'm saying Linkin Park, and I couldn't have done it without Game Time. I went to their website. I used the all-in pricing toggle to know what I was paying before I got to checkout. That's their biggest thing, is I got to see the price I was actually going to pay before checkout, and they let me know what tickets were the best value for the section they were in. I got a ticket that was in the top 5% for my section, all through Game Time. So check out Game Time and take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, segment 2, Locked On. What's up?
How do you think future Brian enjoyed Linkin Park?
I think future Brian's going to enjoy it a lot. Obviously, I'm very upset I never got to see Chester perform live, but I do think Emily has the very strong vocals, and their first album back was a pretty good one, so I'm excited to see how she performs live and with the old music as well. So that's something I get to look forward to. Present Jake. Now, there are holes on this Red Wings roster. We're all very aware of it. You have a couple ideas for the Red Wings on how to fill a couple of those holes. Why don't you present that to us and the viewer?
Sure thing. So both of these contestants come from rebuilding teams, and both would be great fits for completely different reasons. So let me walk you through contestant number 1. Standing at 6'7" with $4.5 million left on his contract, he led his team in blocked shots, and he had the second highest takeaways of that team. He is known for big hits, and he's got plenty of playoff experience. He's seen as sort of a better than Ben Sherratt guy. This guy's name is Jamie Oleksiak of the Seattle Kraken.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't dislike that at all. I think anytime you're comparing a player to Ben Sherratt, people are going to immediately maybe tense up a little bit, but better than, right? A better than Ben Sherratt. So we're improving. Yeah, I think. I mean, man, to me, like this blue line is, and I've moaned and complained about this all summer, but
that's all you do.
It is literally. It's just I wake up and complain about the Red Wings blue line. It's my biggest personality trait at this point. I think it's like pretty massive failure if they go into, you look at what the blue line was on the last game of the season this last spring and what it's likely going to be on opening night this year. If that is the improvement is just that, then I think that that's a massive failure. So I am on board for any and all improvements to the defenseman room, truly.
I actually, the more I look into this, I actually like this, Jake, because of the fact that, obviously the size, the blocked shots, all the things that you've mentioned, but with 1 year left on his deal on a Seattle team that kind of is in a weird spot. And that's the biggest question mark is, can you convince Seattle that it's worth selling? And they should. Their team's not good. I don't know what they're doing. They made a lot of long-term commitments to players last season. It's already not panning out. I think moving on from Oleksiak would be smart for them. He's 32 years old. There's 1 year left, so there's not a big investment for the Red Wings here. I think you can probably get him without giving up a ton. He's played, looking at his player usage chart on Dobber Hockey, he has gotten the most defensive zone deployments out of any defenseman on their team. He has gotten over 60, almost 60% of his deployments are in the defensive zone. So he kind of gives you that flexibility to then put Seider and Edvinsson together and then also give them a little less of that defensive zone. Now, they're still your top pair, so you're still going to trust them with a lot of it, but he gives you a little bit more flexibility. I like this idea. I think it's a good one. The question is can you convince Seattle?
So this is what I was thinking about. The Athletic recently released an article that was talking about contract deficiencies. Thank God the Wings are not at the bottom of this list. But at the very bottom, at 32nd, is the Seattle Kraken. They're in kind of a weird position. Their general manager is now trying to prioritize like a youth movement. They're trying to give as many opportunities to these young guys as they can. So this could be a win-win for both squads. This could give a lot of those young defensemen a chance to, make a name for themselves in Seattle. And it could also give the Wings their physical defenseman that they've been looking for a while. He kind of fits that like Steve Yzerman prototypical defenseman too. He's big. He takes hits. He's known for blocking shots. He's a dog in so many words.
Scotty loves dogs.
We love a dog. I think and Brian kind of alluded to it as well, along with the convincing of Seattle that they're in a position where they should be trading away assets like that. I think then the next question is obviously price on the Wings end. I think that this is intriguing because it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Now, you're not getting like a dynamic game changer. That's like the give and take with that, I guess. But you are getting a guy that would immediately be the third best defenseman on the team, and you wouldn't have to give up, not saying it would be nothing, but you wouldn't have to give up, one of like the untouchable top prospects in order to bring a guy like that in either.
Yeah, you could go for a mid-round draft pick. You could go for one of those younger guys who just really isn't going to crack the roster.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at guys like William Wallander, who are a little older, Antti Tuomisto, who's about to turn 23.
I think Tuomisto's a good comp.
Yeah, I think those kinds of guys are the kind of guys that Seattle's going to want to try anyway. They're the guys who you throw out there, see if it works, and then kind of go with it from there. My other contestant is completely different. So this one, well, my cat has decided to.
Is that the other contestant? I'm down.
Yep, here he is.
Yep.
Jimmy, the biggest cat in the world.
Bring him on board, dude. I'm down. That would immediately improve the blue line. I'm so down.
This contestant is a forward, actually. I know that there have been a lot of rumors about Mason McTavish. I know you guys talked about him last week. I don't realistically see Anaheim trading for him or trading him at all. I don't see the Wings paying that price. But this guy's a little different. This guy has had 54 points in 79 games last year. He has 2 years left on his contract, making $4.5 million a year. He's a two-way cup-winning center. He formerly won a Selke, and I think he has a lot of potential playing with guys like Casper or Patrick Kane. His name is Ryan O'Reilly of the Nashville Predators.
Interesting. That's another one too, where it comes down to like I can see Alexiak like being a deadline acquisition for the Red Wings. If the Seattle Kraken, and they probably will, are out of it by the time the deadline rolls around, then yeah. The O'Reilly one, it's a similar situation. I don't think that this Predators team is very good, and you just have to convince them that like, dude, you gotta tear it down. The problem here is not anything the Red Wings can control. I think Barry Trotz is insane. And I think he thinks that he's got it. Great head coach, has proven so far not to be a very good general manager. That's where my problem. Right.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. O'Reilly's an interesting one too because I feel like that's a move that should have happened already. Like that's a move that, not to say it still can't, but he was just such an obvious trade candidate going into this offseason that it really surprises me that nothing really, I don't know, like formed for them throughout the summer. I know that Brian and I going into, like free agency and offseason, post-draft offseason, mentioned O'Reilly in, passing a couple of times as a potential candidate, but I'm not sure we ever did like, I don't remember. They all kind of blend together at this point, but like, I'm not sure we ever did like a huge deep dive either. And I think that there's a lot to like there. And again, like you at this point in the offseason, you are looking for guys to raise the floor, right? You're looking for guys that can be solid, middle of the lineup pieces. You're not going to get anybody in the middle of August that's going to be like this dynamic award-winning game changer. But if you can bring in guys for relative cheap that you aren't going to get anybody else in free agency to add to your like salary at this point, right? So if you can get players of that caliber at this point in the offseason, I'm again broken record, but I'm down.
Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
No, you're good. Not to mention the fact that he is a two-way guy. He's the kind of guy who plays very similar style to Larkin. I know that Yzerman really prioritizes these two-way guys, and getting a guy like O'Reilly who can play some of those tougher minutes can take a lot of that burden off of Larkin's back. I mean, we've seen how many games have we seen where he's got to like lay it all on the line just to make sure the team is not like 4 or 5 goals down. Like imagine having two of those guys. That would be a huge burden off the shoulders.
Yeah, and like my only pause with Ryan O'Reilly is he has 2 years left on his deal, and the fact that he is playing at a fairly high level. I know he's 34. That's something that gives me pause for a different reason. But when we're talking about return, I would be a little scared to look at what we may have to give up for somebody like O'Reilly playing at a decently high level still one of the few players on that Predators team who is performing while he has an extra year on his term, that would give me pause thinking about the long-term outlook of the organization. But on this roster, if like hypothetically speaking, like put the cost out of my mind, him on this roster would be an absolute upgrade. Plus, that then gives you the flexibility of putting Casper on the top line left wing, which solves that hole. Now, obviously, I want Casper as center long term. I think about Danielson, but you can work around that for the final 2 years of O'Reilly's tenure. It's just the cost that I think gives me the most pause.
And O'Reilly can kind of be that like mentor figure for either of those guys, help them really adjust into playing center at the NHL level. Larkin started on the wing and then eventually moved into it. So
right.
It could be a really similar thing.
Yeah,
I also think that in terms of, cost, I almost feel like the cost that you'd have to give up kind of just goes back to the start of this conversation, which is just what is Nashville doing? Like, if there is an even remote semblance of like we're gonna tear it down a little bit or get rid of older players or contracts that are close to coming off the books, then it's a completely different conversation than we're gonna hoard everything and think that we're still good.
Watch them double down and trade for Erik Karlsson.
No, and I think that's gonna be what happens.
I genuinely think that you're right. Is the
I'm not being facetious. Barry Trotz has he's made his bed and now he has to lay in it. So his two options here are admit that he's wrong and put his job on the line, or double down and put his job on the line. Either way, his job's on the line. GMs like that tend to still go for it. I mean, look at Pittsburgh. I mean, they brought in Kyle Dubas to keep their streak alive and keep making the playoffs. So what do? He went out and acquired Erik Karlsson. Like, this is the job of GMs who are brought into aging cores that are still trying to pry and keep that window alive. Like, it's not being facetious. I do genuinely think that they're not going to sell it. If they sell, it'll be a soft sell and they run it back for Ryan O'Reilly's final year. I like the idea a lot. It makes sense for Detroit from like you have a hole and he would fit the hole.
It makes sense for Nashville, but they won't admit that.
Well, it makes sense. You're right. That's the better way of phrasing it. It makes way more sense for Nashville, but what's logical and what's going to happen don't always align, right? I mean, Detroit for years kept their streak alive when it probably made more logical sense to start the rebuild, but they wanted to keep going. They wanted to keep it going as long as they could, and that put us at a huge deficit for when the rebuild actually started under Steve Yzerman. Like, that's the nature of NHL teams.
I'm so curious to see who their Eric Cole is going to be, in the denial years.
Oh, man.
That final it's over trade.
Yeah, I mean, it might be their goaltender. They just locked him up for a long-term deal. Anyways, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we will talk about Red Savage. So, Jake, why don't you stick around with us for 10 more minutes? We'll be back shortly. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before Week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. For us Red Wings fans listening, why don't you go bet that the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl? You'll be right this time. Visit FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game.
I just totally dropped the ball there. Terrible.
Yeah, I'm used to it. No, that's
Terrible.
fine. I'm used to it. It's standard on this podcast.
I missed it. Like, I literally just missed the button. That was really not great.
It's you're having a Jack Flaherty game.
Well,
he's getting hit hard.
Hopefully I don't have as many of those as he's had lately. Yeah.
Oh, my shoulders are just getting really sore and stiff from carrying the podcast on my back. So
I got podcast
Scotty.
Tommy John.
Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, so the notable news for the Red Wings this week is that on August 15th, NCAA players whose rights are set to expire will expire. That's obviously Friday. If my scheduling goes correctly, that'll be the day you're listening to this, assuming that it's Friday and not Thursday like last time. Red Savage is the Red Wings' sole player that is on that list. They have to sign him to a new contract by August 15th, but seems like indications are that they won't. Jake, why don't you give us just your 2 cents on the Red Savage saga? Obviously, captain of Michigan State hockey. I think he had, 14 points or 20 points in however many games he played this season. What are your thoughts on bringing Red Savage back into the fold or keeping him there?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Yzerman said that decision would ultimately land on Sean Horkoff.
You're right.
If that's the case, if Yzerman's not going to comment on it, I'm not very confident that he believes that Savage is going to be an NHL player, which is a shame. But, we've got, 5-6 contract spots remaining?
5.
Yeah. Sooner or later, those are going to need to be filled, and I don't realistically see Savage being one of them. At the very worst, he might get a 1 year. At the very least, he might get a 1 year deal. But if it's going to take this long, and if we're coming down to the wire, I'm not too confident in it getting done.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Can ELCs be 1 year? Because he doesn't have an ELC. He was just on rights. It would have to be a 2 or 3 year, I believe, unless ELCs can be 1 year. I've just never seen that. I might be wrong, but it just you're right. Sean, he did say it's up to Sean Horkoff, and if he's leaving it up to Sean Horkoff, that indicates, if anything, it'd be an AHL contract playing with Grand Rapids, which I think that's fine. But I agree with you. As much as he's a friend of the pod, we've had him on. He's a great kid, and I'm happy that he was captain of Michigan State, especially for such a good Michigan State team. But I just don't see his ceiling being an NHL player. And if that's not the case, why sign him to an ELC?
Then again, is he playing at MSU next year? Are we aware of that?
No, he's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say it would have been interesting to see him and Porter Martone play together, but if that's not the case, then yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, too bad, I think. Everybody loves him. I don't know how much of that is because of the name or a different reason, but I think that I don't know. I think in a perfect world, obviously that's somebody like to hold on to, but between age and just where he's played, it really wouldn't shock me either way. And yeah, I think to Jake's point, if Yzerman is even whatever, somebody else will figure it out. Clearly, it's not a high priority for him.
Yeah, and if he can't, he could be a productive member of the Griffins. That's not a bad spot to be in.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever you guys do, one of these days, do not look at the 2017 draft. I took a look back at it recently. I think Rasmussen's the only guy still in the league, and the only other one who actually got NHL time was Gustav Lindstrom. Everybody else has been
shout out
from the Red Wings draft.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Red Wings, Holland Classic.
Speaking of former Red Wings players, Jake Chelios announced his retirement from professional hockey. Kind of just a footnote to the end of this episode. He played 5 games with the Detroit Red Wings. He is obviously Chris Chelios' son. Spent the last 5 years over in China not in China, in Russia, playing with the Kunlun Red Star. Great full circle moment. We were just talking about that organization to start the podcast. Yeah. So great to bring it back to that same team, because they are rebranded as the Shanghai Dragons, playing out of St. Petersburg across the continent.
Right, you said China, yeah.
But yes, he has retired from professional hockey, playing in the KHL the last few years, but had a short stint with the Detroit Red Wings, and son of Chris Chelios, just wishing him well in retirement.
Legend.
They already changed his EP to retired, by the way. It's been 2 hours since the official announcement.
So you and Jake Chelios basically same current status in life?
Yeah, our status is the same, but he played 5 NHL games, so I mean, there's a little bit of a different.
I don't know. I think you guys are pretty even in my eyes.
He played for Michigan State as well. So
best first name in the game. That's all I'll say.
Jake.
The powerful.
All right, Jake. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. One more time, just tell people where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, of course. You can find me at 313 Hockey on Twitter or most social medias. And if you subscribe at www.313hockey.com, everything is 100% free, and you will get weekly articles and fun sent to your inbox.
Great. Scotty, that sounded way
great.
different than
Wow.
That's not how I meant that.
Not this guy.
Hold on. Let me wait, rewind. Let me Great, thanks, Jake. No, that still sounded condescending. I can't do it.
That was awesome. Thanks. Good job, Bri. That was really great.
Oh,
I swear
really
I'm not
to
mean.
Make your guests feel welcome.
I didn't mean it. That's not how I meant it. All right, Scotty, why don't you tell the people the thing you always say? Any final thoughts?
What is wrong with you, dude?
I'm tilted. I'm shaking right now.
Jake, thanks for coming on. Sorry, Brian's a jerk. And
that's not what I meant. All right. We'll be back on Monday with another condescending Talk Down to You episode. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.